Good morning, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant morning, and pull up a chair, grab yourself a coffee. We are about to have another Druthers moment. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I will say right off that this is an unsolicited, unashamed, unabashed promotion of the newspaper called Druthers. I've been reading Druthers now for several years, all through the whole pandemic and COVID issue there, and which brought Druthers into being. These people have gone through thick and thin to keep this newspaper rolling out month after month. They've had their bank accounts frozen. They have been threatened, intimidated, all because they want to print the truth. And the truth is something that is really lacking in today's society, and I'm sure you're all feeling it. I'm feeling it, that you just don't know where to go to get an accurate picture of the situation. And of course things are happening so quickly, it is difficult to keep up. Well, take your time, sit down, grab yourself either online or the hard copy, and leaf through some of the stories and enlighten yourself, and at least get another point of view. And the big thing about this young group of people is that they are risk takers. Yep, it takes a lot of risk to do this kind of stuff and to keep on going, like I say, through all kinds of troubles and difficulties. And one of the things that I'm noticing today is that because people are so financially strapped, with bills, students come out of university with a huge debt. Well, you are not a risk taker if you are carrying that amount of debt. You just can't afford to make a mistake. So, you're straight into the workforce, and, you're not going to try and start that company or, whatever it is, that idea that you have in the back of your head. So we are losing our risk takers. And so they are an inspiration to anybody who wants to start something, get an idea going, and to face adversity to get it off the ground and make it a successful venture. And this newspaper now, I'm not quite sure what the circulation is, but there has certainly been millions and millions of copies handed out free. Free. It's a free newspaper. You don't pay a cent to get this news. Okay, so let's go over and we'll read some of the stories from the Absurdity Observer, because we are living in an absurd universe. Okie dokie, here we go. So here we go, the Absurdity Observer. Some of the most absurd happenings in recent weeks. Ontario Premier Doug Ford purchased a $28.9 million taxpayer-funded luxury jet, one that would easily fit how his brother would define a gravy plane. While residents were told to brace for tight budgets and strained services, the Premier opted for a Bombardier Challenger 650, a high-end executive aircraft typically used by high-net-worth travellers, featuring a spacious stand-up cabin, seating for up to 12 passengers, and upscale interiors with onboard entertainment. Oh, I wonder what that could be. After a large public outcry, Ford announced that he heard loud and clear and resold the jet back to Bombardier for the same price because I'm the Premier that listens to the people. Oh yeah? You would never have sold it back had you not been caught, and there would have been some public pushback. And here we are, second little piece. These are signs of a dictatorship. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has passed a bill that effectively blocks access to freedom of information requests targeting him and his cabinet, including communications and decision-making records. The changes are, wouldn't you just believe it, retroactive, so those who have waited for years for answers will now get nothing. Canada's Foreign Affairs Ministry records reveal the department spent $59,000 to decorate its consulate in Milan, Italy, with artwork. The Canadian Taxpayer Federation reports. Statistics Canada shows that 120,000 Canadians moved to a foreign country in 2025, 55% of whom were mid-career professionals in peak earning years. The data also shows that doctors, engineers and scientists are leaving Canada at double the rate of low-skilled workers. And this is what happens when you have Poor leadership and poor policy decisions. Your best and brightest, get up and leave and go to another jurisdiction. A whopping $1.1 billion in Canada child benefit payments went to temporary residents in 2025, according to House of Commons data. Temporary? Are you kidding me? Child benefit for temporary residents? I don't get that. The federal government spent $9.5 million on advertising campaigns in French-speaking countries to promote immigration to Canada. According to figures from the Department of Immigration, the federally funded advertising campaign started in 2022 and focused primarily on African countries. Canada's troubled vaccine injury support program has been quietly scrapped and rebranded as the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program, a shift that removes the phrase vaccine injury from the public lexicon and does little to fix the program's failures. Launched in 2021 as a no-fault system, it has been plagued by years-long delays, poor communication, and stalled or denied claims. Of the $54 million allocated, roughly two-thirds went to administration, with only $21 million reaching injured individuals. Now, isn't that theft? You know, by proxy, you know, you're just kind of just going another way about it. You're not breaking any doors down, but my God, two-thirds going to administration. That is an absolute disgrace. And, you know, all those people, they now have to reapply under this new heading after waiting years. Unbelievable. A study published in the Journal of Law, Medicine and Ethics found that 19 of the world's major pharmaceutical companies have been implicated in at least one foreign bribery scheme, and not by rogue employees, but with the approval of senior executives and regional directors. Payments were allegedly funneled through subsidiaries, shell companies, and third-party vendors to appear legitimate. Yes, you heard that right. Toronto psychiatrist Dr. Celeste Thirlwell has had her medical licence revoked after Ontario's physician regulator ruled she issued hundreds of COVID-19 exemption letters, including mask exemptions, PCR test exemptions, and vaccine exemptions, that did not meet its standards. Well, bravo for you, Dr. Celeste Thirlwell. We need more doctors like you and less doctors like the ones that sit on the Ontario's Physicians Regulator Board. The Canadian Media Guild, the union representing CBC employees, is now openly calling for more taxpayer funding, whilst also urging Ottawa to restrict legal online speech it deems harmful. Appearing before the Commons Heritage Committee, the union argued that journalists face an overwhelming level of online toxicity and that the answer is government intervention in what Canadians are allowed to say on platforms like Facebook, X and Instagram. And yes, this is a corporation that shuts off commenting on its own YouTube videos because they're frightened of the pushback. And the reason that they have an overwhelming level of online toxicity is because the news is demonstrably untrue and biased. You know, no wonder, and we're allowed to push back at that. You can't just spout crap at everybody and not get called out for it, and that's what they don't like. It leaves one absolutely speechless, if you'll excuse the pun. The City of Toronto is now using a tree equity score analyzer, fancy that, to decide where trees get planted, factoring in race and income. Well, wouldn't you know it? What was once a straightforward environmental goal, plant trees where they're needed most, is being reshaped into a demographic formula that effectively deprioritizes some neighborhoods based on who lives there. Oh, look at that. How about that for equity and equal treatment and no discrimination and inclusive? Yeah, okay, we get it. Same as this next one. The University of British Columbia is advertising a job position for its Canada Research Chair in Forestry, but the opening is restricted only to applicants who self-identify as disabled, with clear preference for those who also identify as Indigenous, racialized, or as a woman. In other words, straight white men need not apply. They should be sued for discrimination. You cannot do that. We have laws preventing that from taking place. And this is a university. A university. Well, we all know what university not to send your kids to, and that's UBC. A Canadian Member of Parliament, Leah Gazan, just dropped the longest victim acronym in Canadian history, MMIWG2SLGBTQQIA+. Missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual. Gazan dropped this 16-character acronym while addressing Parliament about budget cuts to these services. The federally funded 2026 Canada Jobs Program is now openly telling employers to prioritise hiring based on race, to SLGBTQI+ identity and other barriers while still calling it equal opportunity. On jobs postings tied to the program, applicants are told that all youth are welcome to apply, but that employers will prioritise candidates from these designated groups. Oh yes, thanks a lot. And this is federally funded. Federally funded. If you aren't really concerned about the direction that Canada is taking right now, you should be. Canada now classifies dead naming using a transgender person's birth name as gender-based violence on Canada.ca's webpage, classifying the offence as a violation of human rights. A study measuring NT-proBNP, a marker of heart damage post-mRNA COVID vaccine inoculations in healthy military adults, found that 49% of participants exhibited a relative increase of this biomarker exceeding 1.5 times their individual baseline. This biomarker response may reflect transient myocardial stress after inoculation, the researchers wrote. Dr. Helmut Sturz, Pfizer's former chief toxicologist, just admitted to a German parliamentary committee that an estimated 60,000 people have died in Germany from Pfizer's mRNA COVID-19 inoculation. Academic Frances Widdowson, known for her work exposing myths around the Kamloops Residential School unmarked graves, has been preemptively banned from the University of Lethbridge, with officials citing a vague health and safety risk her presence may pose to students and staff. A long-term Finnish study that tracked nearly 2,100 Jews seeking help for gender dysphoria and found something the affirmation model isn't supposed to produce, and that is worse mental health in adolescents who underwent medical gender reassignment. Rates of depression, anxiety, and other psychiatric morbidities surged by 6 times for male to female patients and 2.5 times for female to male patients. One of the study's authors, a psychiatrist who founded one of Finland's 2 pediatric gender clinics in 2011, has since publicly warned that the model she once advanced can cause harm. Well, thank you very much. It's always nice when people can admit when they are wrong. Okay, so I hope you enjoy that, and please go online. The link is down below in the description box, and you can read the whole issue, any back issues that you want to read. There are some incredible stories in there, as I say. Okay, well, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe below, and in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant morning, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.